We'll continue with theater anatomy, and for the purposes of this set of videos, I'll focus more on a proscenium theater and the parts of a proscenium theater. The ideas and the concepts often transfer to other staging arrangements as well, right? So when we start to talk about a theater, we have what's known as the house. The house or the auditorium is where the seats are, and it's where the people are, and it's from there that you're able to watch the action on stage, right? The control booth, where lighting, sound, projections, and stage management, they often have their control stations there, and it's where we run the show from. The proscenium, which is the proscenium arch, which we spoke a little bit about, and we'll talk about more here in just a minute. It is the foundation. It's where all measurements in a proscenium house originate from. The stage is where the performance happens. It's where people stand, where the performers stand. The fly tower is often located above the stage, and it's a large open space where we can fly and hide scenery or lighting or other equipment. We can fly it up and get it out of the way and out of view. Next is the trap room. Trap room is used less in U.S. theater, more in European theater. Trap room is a space that's located below the stage, and it allows us to bring scenery and people and all kinds of things up from the floor, right? Next is the pit. Pit is often located just in front of the stage, and it's where we put an orchestra. It's known as the Orchestra Pit, right? And booth we already did. So talking about the proscenium house. So the seating that's in a proscenium, right? So the level that is on the same level with the orchestra, the floor level, if you will, is often known as the orchestra level. It's the lowest level, and it's floor level seating in a theater. The first raised area as we move up in a theater is known as a mezzanine. If a theater only has one raised level, they will often call it a balcony, right? But a balcony is technically the next higher level up from that. Theaters with more than two raised levels can have second mezzanines or second balconies. We spoke about the proscenium arch. This is a more ornate proscenium arch than what we had looked at before. And the proscenium arch is the frame in which the action is going to take place within, right? So we look through this as a picture frame. That's the proscenium arch. Now, the seating, there's something unique about seating. Proscenium seating is often arranged in a curve. I have 3 different examples of 3 different theaters, and all of the seating is curved, and I wonder why. And the reason is theater is a communal experience, right? We are all humans, and we all have chosen to show up at this performance and engage together in humans performing for humans and the interaction of one another, right? And this curved relationship of these seats actually places the person sitting next to you in your peripheral view, right? So the idea that you've ever been in a room with someone who's laughing and laughing a lot, you tend to engage in that behavior. You follow them. It'll make you smile. You'll start to laugh, right? And so the same thing is true in the theater. You will be more engaged as a community if you have a sense, if you have your neighbor in your peripheral vision. And that's why seats are arranged in an arc, in a curve. So let's talk about the parts of the stage, parts of the proscenium stage. So again, the stage is the area where everything is going to happen, right? There is often a playing space or performance area that's located downstage or below in front of the proscenium arch. And this area is often referred to as an apron. You can see the apron of this stage. The proscenium is back here, but then this performance area that's out front, it's all on the same level with the stage, is known as the apron, right? There are distinct two two distinct lines in any proscenium space, and that is the center line. And the center line is equidistant between the proscenium opening, between the edges of the proscenium arch. So equidistance between that is going to be known as the center line. Now, the plaster line is a line that exists on the upstage edge of the proscenium. The reason it's called a plaster line is prosceniums are made out of plaster. So it is the edge of the plaster of the proscenium. It's a demarcation, if you will, between the stage and the apron. It's also a very useful place for us to measure. So now, stage directions. In classical theater and the origins of theater, they had raked stages, and a raked stage is simply a stage that's built on an incline. And this incline in classical theater went up as it moved towards the back wall. As the stage went further away from the audience, performers got taller. And what it allowed for was a perspective, right? So you could more easily see a person who is in the back, right? Because they were up high, and it also gave you a sense of perspective to help with the space. So a rake stage. So the net result of that is as you move towards the back wall, you're moving up stage, or you will move up the rake. As you come down stage or towards the audience, you're referred to as coming down stage and therefore moving towards the audience, right? So that's upstage and downstage. Left and right are based on the orientation of the performer on stage, not from the audience's perspective, but from the performer on stage. So then we were able to break any proscenium stage up into 9 essential quadrants: downstage center, center center, upstage center. And then that's if you're in the middle of the stage, right? Upstage moving to center stage, moving to downstage. Then you have stage left. Stage left based on the performer's left as they face the audience. So then you have downstage left, stage left center, and upstage left. Conversely, upstage right, center stage right, and downstage right. So we have these 9 quadrants that we can use to roughly define where things are in the space. Next, let's look at an orchestra pit. Orchestra pit is this recessed and often rather deep space where we're able to put an orchestra for a musical or a musical presentation, an opera, right? So it's this recessed area where we put a band. They're often fairly large. Sometimes they tuck back up under the stage a little bit, and they often are fairly deep. If you take a look at this is at least 10 feet deep. Some of them are 12, 14 feet, even as deep as 20 or 25 feet. A pit can be extremely dangerous, right? In the last 10 years, we've really started to address those concerns. And a good friend of mine's mother actually fell off a stage into a pit while she was giving a tour. She was not seriously hurt. However, it was terrifying. And so to address that concern, Actors Equity and all of the safety agencies have started to require that there be some sort of fall restraint, safety restraint. And so they've required that you put netting, that this net be placed over top of the orchestra pit so that you can't accidentally fall into the pit. You may fall, but the net will catch you before you do any serious harm to yourself or to someone that might be in the pit. If there's not a cover on a pit, it is dangerous, and you should be careful of it and to stay away. So we spoke a little bit about traps, right? Trap door. So you can see in this, these doors simply hinge open to reveal a hole in the floor that these performers can crawl down from, crawl up from, pull things up from, right? So this is a trap door, a trap in the floor. Sometimes traps can be automated, and you can see in this case that this trap is probably going to rise and lower automatically. As it lowers all the way down, this top section up here then will form a solid floor. So you may not even know that there's a trap there until it lifts up magically and reveals. Trap rooms are located underneath of the stage. Some are customizable, some have very specific areas. The Fallon does have a trap room and has several trap panels, right, to where we can install things that come and go from underneath. So that's a trap. And last, we'll talk a little bit about fire and fire safety. A fire curtain is a large, it used to be asbestos, but it needs to be some sort of fireproof fabric. And it's a large curtain that comes down right near the plaster line, usually just upstage of where the proscenium edge is. And it travels in a thing called a smoke pocket, which is nothing more than a bent piece of metal, an angled piece of metal that traps that curtain and then also traps smoke, right? And so this curtain is designed to lower automatically in the event of a fire. If there were a fire in the middle of the night, there are these fusible links, little pieces of metal, and when they get hot, they will snap. When they snap, this fire curtain will lower slowly. It doesn't just slam down to the ground, but it will lower and it will separate the stage from the auditorium and hopefully contain the fire. In the Fallon, they lower that every night as a way to provide security and safety in the event that there were a fire. So that's a fire curtain that lives in a smoke pocket. It lives just upstage of the plaster line, just behind the proscenium, and that's what we got.